we get asked a lot of questions. I see this come in here and there where somebody's like, well, I'm on my feet a lot, because I'm a waiter or I'm a waitress, and um, does that count for my 10-minute walks? And I'm still like, no, you still need to get on your, we need 3 10-minute walks. It's a big difference when you have like purposeful fitness, I would call it. Like, you have an intent. The
Mm-hmm.
intent is I'm going to walk and I'm going to be uninterrupted, as opposed to your work environment, which can be healthy, but is also um, high stress usually, right? If you're a waiter or waitress, or you have a job where you're doing a lot of manual labor, even though it could be positive, like maybe you love working on a roof, or maybe you love construction, and that is a great way to burn calories. But it's a stressor, right? It's a little bit like lifting,
Mm.
whereas something like walking is really not a stress at all. It's really just kind of relaxing, and you're burning some energy. And the reasons on why we walk and stuff like that are um, there's just so many different reasons for it. But it's continuous motion, uninterrupted, and you're not like talking to anybody else or doing anything else. You might be listening to music or a podcast. It's a time for personal development as well as get some exercise in.
Yeah. And I always tell like it's always good, even if you have a job, I guess, where either you're sedentary or you have a job where you're working a lot on your feet, it's always good to get outside and take those walks because getting some sunlight exposure is going to help you when the nighttime comes. That's one of the big reasons why I want, no matter what kind of job the individual I work with has, I want them to take multiple 10-minute walks during the day because that exposure to sunlight will help them fall asleep faster, get deeper
Mhm.
sleep, etc. Because you'll notice, if you're stuck indoors for most of your day, and you never get sunlight because most people don't. Like most people, they wake up, they get in their car, they go to work, they're in work until like 4 or 5 p.m.
Mhm.
By the time they come out, the sun's close to down, but they don't even get outside again. They find it harder to fall asleep. That's
Right.
one of those reasons why getting outside and taking some walks is going to be so important. Helps them out a lot.
Yeah, and then there's some people that have the opposite style of job where they're really not moving around a lot. They got kind of a desk job,
Mm.
and I hear a lot of people, say they have their back hurts or their knees hurt, and it's very common. If you're going to be sitting down for a period of time, a long period of time, what I usually try to suggest to people is that anytime that you do sit down, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of things to go over here. We can have like a stand up desk, and there's some things that can help.
Mm.
Just change your positions, right? But what I see happen a lot is a lot of times somebody's like, I'm just going to sit down for a minute. And so they have like bad sitting down skills, and they sit weird.
Mm-hmm.
They're like on some weird angle. Their hips are shifted off to like the right because they're not like, they don't think they're going to be there for that long. Their
Yeah.
hips are way shifted out, and they don't have their full body like lined up with the keyboard and lined up with the computer, and they're not like tucked into their spot, their station.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big mistake. And it's just something that's a real easy thing to fix, just being conscious of that. Say, you know what, doesn't matter how many seconds I'm here for, I may as well sit down the correct way and get up the correct way, and make sure I'm not in a rush so I can, keep this vehicle going.
Mhm.
Yeah. My oh
No,
no.
I was just gonna say, so like our boy Josh, he kind of tweaked his back during a squat last week or so.
Aye.
I know it was just one of those weird things where it's like, what the heck happened there?
Mm-hmm.
But talking to him, just like, like, hey, like I've been there. Like I went through hell for like 2 years because I couldn't figure out what was wrong with my back, or like I just didn't know what to do. I'm like, you're not gonna do that. But one of the things I told him, I'm like, hey, like you no longer are allowed to slouch, like at all. Like that means leaning one side or the other.
Settlage or Josh
Kim.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I was like, pretend your spine is now like that game Jenga, where you like putting the blocks up and stuff. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you start leaning over to one side, like it's gonna fall over. I'm like, I was like, by time you realize like, oh shit, I'm slouching, I'm leaning over, it's too late because the second you straighten out, you're like, oh shit, like damn it, I shouldn't have sat that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super guilty of that. I mean, on this podcast, I sit like this because I'm typing over here and then I'm trying to get to the microphone. And then by the time I'm done, I'm like, uh-oh, like I messed up. So it's one of those things that you don't pay attention to until it's way too late.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. Step one is definitely having good posture if you're going to be forced to sit down and like talk like on the note of sedentary individuals, my girlfriend just got a sedentary job a few months ago, and she was someone who at her past job, she was on her feet all the time. So it was really interesting because like she's never had lower back pain in her life. And now, boom, lower back pain came out because she's typing at a desk. So, if it's possible, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you could find a way, if your company like allows it, if they could get you a standing desk, and then if they can't, it's like not a full on standing desk, but you can get yourself a riser that you can
Right.
put underneath your monitor.
Yeah, fairly inexpensive. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some that are like on Amazon for 80, 90 bucks. There's some that are like 400, but there are some really good ones that are really affordable. You want to get that for yourself because like on the hour, you want to be standing multiple times as much as you can. That'll help you a lot. Like when you're sitting, your hips are off, your glutes are off. You'll notice that like you'll have a hard time even exercising when you get off of work because you're seated for so long. So you really want to figure out a way to not have to be in that same position for 7 or 8 hours during the day.
I was at Phil's the other day as normal, and a guy just started doing walking lunges in there. It's this kind of like thin looking guy just started like popping out some lunges, and for about 5 seconds I thought like that's odd, and I was like, you know what, that's not really odd, it's actually really cool. And he was staying at the bottom of the lunge, and he was like stretching his hips and kind of moving around. Why not? He ain't doing nothing else. He's not hurting anybody. He's not in anybody's way. He's not causing any problems. He's just lunging in the middle of Phil's. And if you can kind of keep that same mentality, if you can maybe have an idea of like, I'm just going to try to keep moving my body around. I'm just going to keep trying to stretch. I'm going to keep trying to get some stimulation, because even if you are, working very diligently, there's probably not a lot of reasons for you to sit for more than maybe 30 or 40 minutes at a time. I'm guessing, because you're probably going to be interacting with some other people, and you may have a project, and maybe you are kind of sitting down for a little while working on it. But regardless of what the job is, I would get up, and anytime that you have to use the restroom, or anytime you have to go get food or go get water or something like that, I would make that a cue and make that a habit of like, okay, I'm already up. I'm already like distracted. I'm already away from my desk. I may as well, see if I can go outside for a walk for a few minutes, if that would work. Or, maybe like that guy was doing, bust out some lunges or try some stretches for a few minutes. The only thing it's going to do is increase your work productivity. It's not going to make anything worse. It's going to give you a nice shot of energy. So I think that's a great way to do it, is use that cue of like anytime you have to get up from your desk, do something else as well.
Yeah. Or even like also you could, I have a desk at home that I use because I work at the computer a lot, but I have a kettlebell there so that like every hour, like I can do a little bit of kettlebell type work, maybe some kettlebell deadlifts or some overhead pressing with a kettlebell. If you could get a cheap one you could take to work, I'm pretty sure your office wouldn't have a problem with that, but you could be that, you could do that. And then also like maybe taking a band too, like having one of those resistance bands where you could do something with that in your cubicle a little bit so you can keep things moving, because that's the one thing that happens when you're seated so much, things turn off. But also, this is the last thing, if you start standing, a lot of people, if they've never gotten a riser or standing desk, they'll have bad posture when they're standing because they don't keep their glutes on. So if you're standing at a riser, make sure,
booty.
Like activate it a bit, keep it a little bit active, because that'll help in terms of engaging your abdomen, and everything else will engage. But if your glutes are off, then you're still gonna have a problem. So you need to keep them flexed, and that'll help things a lot.
Maybe grab a hold of a hip circle, do a couple of walks.
Actually,
get your heart rate up a little bit, and move around. You don't have to get all sweaty, because I know you're in your work clothes, but get it moving around a little bit.
Yeah, but you can keep the hip circle around your knees as you're standing too. And if you have a problem keeping your glutes active, that'll help you out a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Nathan on Facebook, he recommends, because this is what he does, he'll just hold like a deep squat for a good amount of time in between stuff. Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. It's a great way to get your knees used to that kind of pressure. That's like, I think Kelly Starrett used to talk about it, because Kelly Starrett recommends like a 5-minute squat. Like you just like get down there and just, don't come back up, but you can move around a little bit. But that's actually really, that's hard.
We should do a podcast in a full squatted position.
Man.
Like a 30-minute podcast squatting.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Stretch you out for a little bit, and then after a while, you'd be like, I'm dead. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. But yeah, movements like that are great. And but it does, those of you that have like bad knees and stuff, you're thinking, oh man, I wouldn't be able to do that. But you can get used to stuff like that. It might take time. Maybe your version has to look a little different. Maybe you have to hold on to something while you're doing something like that. Um, but yeah, that's a great movement, great exercise.
I was one of those people too that was like, oh no, my knees can't handle that in terms of just like sitting in a seated squatted position. But after just doing it like over and over, increasing the amount of time that I was able to do it, now I can just squat and comfortably sit there for a prolonged period of time. So yeah, most of us that we think our knees are going to be a problem, they're really not going to be. We just got to do it a little bit more. That's all.
And some of the reason why we know about some of these things is like, I've never had like a 9 to 5 where I was sitting at a desk, so I don't know much about that. And I don't think you ever really did either, right?
It wasn't a 9 to 5, but it was like a desk job at a gym. I was like selling memberships.
Yeah, but part of the reason why we know this is that Nsima and I have both been lifting for a very long time, and we both feel good. I can say for myself that I feel better than I ever have. I've had some pain in like my hip / groin for, I don't even know how long. I think 2008 or something like that. And I just always been too stubborn to get it like looked at or anything, because my dad has a fake hip, or maybe he has 2 fake hips, and my brother has 2 fake hips. I'm like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what they're going to tell me. But the reason why we know so much about some of this stuff is that we're feeling great, and we've been lifting for a long time. We've been kicking the crap out of ourselves. Nsima doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and competing at Worlds at a very high level. All these things are contributing factors to us figuring out ways. How can we feel good and still perform at a high level? And a lot of it just has to do with just don't stop. You have to keep moving. You have to keep your eye on the prize. And I know sometimes it will seem like it's too much, and sometimes you're going to want to kind of give in. But the second that you give in, you will get smacked in the mouth, and you will learn a very valuable lesson that wasn't the right move to make. Anytime that I've ever slowed down or stopped, it's always hurt me. I'm not talking about relaxation. I'm not talking about sleep. I'm not talking about paying attention to your recovery. I'm talking about, when your knee is kind of banged up and you're like, I'm just going to take like a week off because like, my knee's banged up. That might be a good idea to take a week off of something, but don't take a week off of everything.
Yeah, that's definitely that's the conundrum right there, because when you mentioned slowing down and stop, there's a guy that I work with. He has the tendency of overdoing things all the time. And he's one of those people that it would benefit him so much if he would actually take the deloads that are programmed, or actually back off when he needs to, because that's digging him into a hole. But it's definitely necessary. Like, if you can think about like your workouts, figure out certain weeks after maybe 4 or 5 weeks where you can back off just a little bit. You can still go to the gym, still lift. You don't have to totally take things off, but just go a little bit lighter for a week or 2. And then you can continue to progress, because that's super important. If you don't do those things and you just keep going, you're going to get yourself injured somehow. You're going to hurt yourself somehow. So it needs to be like, you need to have times where you can actually back off a little bit. But I was going to ask you this. When you said that you never stopped, does that mean that like when you look back at like when you're training, do you mean like you really just never, like you never backed off from the gym unless it was like a vacation or something like that? You've just been going at it?
Yeah, I don't think I've had more than 4 days off of training. Maybe 5 days. Probably 5 days, probably more accurate. I don't think I've ever had more than 5 days off of training at all.
That's the same here.
Yeah, and I don't know how necessary that is. Like I'm not saying that like is the key to like feeling amazing. I'm just saying like I know what has helped me, what's worked well for me, and that's been to just figure out a way to continue to move. And exercise, I talked in the past about being protein focused with your nutrition, and I think when it comes to just your health, aside from what you eat, I would also be very like exercise focused. Think about what is it today that I'm going to do that's gonna, how am I gonna put out some energy today? What's it gonna look like? Am I doing jujitsu? Am I running? Am I walking? Am I just it could literally be just about anything.
I think that like because when we were talking earlier, I was mentioning how, like, as I was walking in today, I just realized, oh, damn, I just feel really good. Like, nothing hurts. My hips, my elbows, yeah, there are little things here and there when I'm lifting, but overall, my overall movement, I feel great. And it's been a long time since I felt
Why did
great.
you say you needed a massage from Andrew then?
Because I
What's
just like getting massages from Andrew. That
Oh,
man is very good with his hands. I don't know if you've ever
powerful fingers.
powerful fingers, great grips. He just knows how to touch a man
And where?
and where. So yeah, you got to let Andrew hit you up.
He's
man.
not lying.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Andrew knows his way around
Is there
a
a
back.
fee?
No, not for you
It's
guys.
free for friends.
Yeah.
Free for friends. I like
Thanks,
that.
salted caramel.
But man, I was saying that it would be, even if you're not someone who does a martial art or anything, it'd be a great idea to figure out how to fit in like non-specific movement into your training, just so that like lunges, not just lunges forward, but maybe lunges to the side with lighter loads or lunges backwards. Because overall, that's going to help you to be able to move in spaces. Bulgarian split squats, single leg type movements. I do a lot of that type of stuff in my lifts too, just because it does help with overall movement. And if you're good at movement, then you're just going to be able to move better and feel better.
What about just encouraging somebody else? Say like, "Hey, dude, let's go on a 10-minute walk." Somebody else in your
Yep.
office say, "Hey, let's go walk down the street. Let's, maybe you're next to a coffee shop, or maybe you're next to a destination that you can walk somewhere, and it makes it more exciting than sitting in the office all day." And then you're trying to, hopefully, that reaches that person, and then hopefully that person, when they feel good, they come to you and they cheer you up, or they get you excited about something and say, "Hey, let's go do this." And then it won't be as weird. It won't be as weird to like do some walking lunges in the hallway or something like that. Everyone will just be like, it wouldn't be any big deal. Like if we were walking through here and someone was doing some push-ups or stretching, even if it was more on the office side of things, we'd be like, well, that's just Smokey. He's really weird and he's obsessed with bench pressing. So we would just, we wouldn't think anything of it, right?
But that, you touched on that, because like it's good to get somebody to take with you on these 10-minute walks. But the one reason why I think a lot of people maybe don't go out of their way to get a standing desk if their company isn't going to pay for it, or they don't take these walks, is because everybody else is also just kind of sitting around,
Right.
or that's just the culture of where they are. No one else does it. And if you do that, you're going to be kind of weird. Everyone's going to be looking at you like, what's Stacy doing over there with her bands and her stuff in her office? Why is she doing all of that?
Why you gotta make fun of white people?
Stacy could be Latina. Like,
I
what?
don't know.
She could be, but
Stasia, like.
maybe. No.
Anyway, Stacy is my example here, and I'm sticking by that. But yeah, like, it would be a good idea to get somebody else, if you have a friend at that office, get them doing what you're doing, so maybe you could potentially just, you're not the odd man out. Or if you are the odd man out, so what? You're feeling better.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
I was gonna say at the previous job that we did have like these walking treadmills. So you would take your laptop and you would put it down, and then you'd have these. They went super slow, but it was just I thought it was great. Nobody touched them, because anytime somebody would get close, it'd be like, "Oh, there goes Andrew. He's gonna get his workout in." It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just I'm gonna utilize this because it's here.
Yeah.
And then it's all right. See you tomorrow. And it's like, no, you won't.
Oh, you're gonna get some exercise in, huh? Like they're making a big deal about it every
Yeah.
time you went to use
I
it.
was just like, hey, Susan, like, just calm down.
It's always these
Her name
names,
was Susan. Someday she's gonna find this podcast and she's gonna be so upset, because she was nice to me, but she still was very passive aggressive to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
we're all gonna get attacked at some
We
point,
think we
like for
will.
something that we said on here. Someone's
Yeah.
gonna throw a brick at the back of our head in the streets.
We're mentioning this stuff for the sedentary jobs. There's one other thing that I think would be pretty useful. And Mark, you have one right here. It's one of these mats, because a lot of people, when you're just standing around, and back in the day when I was reading what Kelly Starrett was talking about as far as standing, he even like. He was a promoter of these mats. There's a bunch of different brands on Amazon, but also like maybe a little stool to put your foot on, so you can be in the Captain Morgan pose.
Mhm.
If you don't know what the Captain Morgan pose is, I guess just look it up, or if you're watching the video, it's Huh.
Or just look at Captain Morgan.
Look
Yeah.
at Captain Morgan, yeah, because like it's actually a really comfortable position to stand in prolonged, and then you could just switch from foot to
Mhm.
foot and keep that glute active. It's really beneficial. So
Yeah, bars have that like actual bar, like going to up to the bar, have that like spot for your foot on purpose. Like it's not just it's just because you get more comfortable, you can stay there longer.
yeah.
There's some science behind it.
Seriously. Yeah, Kelly's like he went as far as saying, "Oh, sitting is the new smoking." And like being perfectly honest, I don't think that's an exaggeration. All the times that I've had to or I've made the mistake of sitting for too long on multiple days on end, or even at my old job when I worked at a gym, I started to get lower back pain that I never had in my entire life. And for a lot of us, that starts to become normal. So just understand that number one, you don't have to live with that type of pain. That doesn't have to be normal. You don't have to be that stiff. It's just some very simple changes that are different from what a lot of other people where you work are probably doing.
Whenever you have an opportunity to stand rather than sit, that would be great. Anytime you have an opportunity to walk rather than stand, that would be great. Whatever option you have that is going to have you be more active, burn some more calories. Um, I don't really do a lot of sitting. I mean, it's rare for me to come into here and sit. We're at a standing desk right now where we do the podcast from, and sometimes when I'm in meetings, sometimes I'm even standing just because I don't feel like sitting. I usually like sit or like lay down like when the day's over. I save it for then. And then also like if you're older, you'll find that you stiffen up a lot easier.
Yeah.
So you turn into like cement when you sit down for a long time. The noises that I make getting up, after a long movie,
Yeah.
sound like a bear or something. Because I feel like I was like cryogenically frozen into the seat or something like that. And so a way to combat that is to continue to figure out ways to move, continue to stand, continue to move around. I remember George Foreman. When George Foreman made his big comeback, he was in his 40s. And if you remember, the big deal with him, not only was he knocking people out left and right, but he was also standing. When he went to the corner, everybody sits down in the corner. Big old George wasn't, because he was like, if I sit down, I'm not getting back up.
I thought that was more so an intimidation thing. Like, I don't need to sit. You got to sit. I thought that was intimidation.
I think it was a factor for sure, like because he didn't really waste a lot of energy because he
Yeah.
was a veteran boxer. But I also think that, he was just like, I'm not getting back up. These joints are stiff at this point.
Yeah, dude. I was watching a little thing on Razor Ruddock.
Oh yeah,
Oh God,
Yeah.
I was watching it was like a
he
little
fought Tyson. Yeah,
mini documentary on that Tyson fight, and my gosh, this the how hard his punches were just scared the living hell out
Oh
of me.
my God, those guys. Yeah, they were smashing on each other. That was a really cool fight.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like a point in Tyson's career where like you thought he would, kind of turn the corner, but he just had too much shit going on. He couldn't quite do it. But he did beat Razor Ruddock. But
Yeah, that was dope.
he
But
was ferocious.
Andrew had mentioned something. Listener, what did they ask, dude? You just repeat the question because that's actually pretty important.
Yeah, I'll try to find it to be like exact, but basically he was just asking about he has for everybody in general, like they have more of a high demand job, like they're more
They're moving
physically
around
active.
more.
Sorry,
Yeah.
the word slipped in my mind. Anyways, and on top of that, this guy, he's I think in landscaping, and he works in Florida, so it's
Yeah.
hot, humid. So he's following the general rule of like 1 pound or 1 gram of protein per pound. He's more on the higher carbs, lower fat, but all in all, he's about 3,500 calories per day.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't ask a very specific question. He just wanted us to hit more kind of on that topic of what do people do who have like a more physically demanding job. And I think basically he's just like kind of wondering like, hey, am I doing the right thing here? Because I'm following, general rules, but should someone like me in my position be doing something different? And I think he just wanted to kind of like make sure all the checks and balances were in place.
Yeah.
What's changed for you, Nsima? Anything changed since you've added in jiu-jitsu several years ago?
Other than like losing 25 pounds, not really. I actually eat. I probably.
And the losing 25 pounds, you kind of like just let it happen. It wasn't an intention.
No, I just let it happen
You weren't like
because
dieting or anything
I
in
wasn't
particular,
dieting.
but your diet has gotten better too, right?
It has gotten better. I wasn't doing fasting initially when I started jujitsu, but over the period of time, I did start doing that. Um, in terms of food, I probably eat a little bit more or close to the same amount nowadays. Um, I think that in this person's case, because I think that we need to kind of answer this question. If he's trying to lose weight, if he's someone that's trying to lose weight and he has this demanding job, I think he's kind of at an advantage here. If he really thinks about it, you're at an advantage because, yeah, you can hit your protein. If you're higher carb, that's fine. But you're doing so much work that you're able to get away with eating more food than a sedentary individual would have
Hmm.
to like would have to eat, like a substantial amount more, especially if
And
your
he might
job's
even be
active.
able to get like kind of a double whammy on fasting because he's exercising for 4 or 5 hours at a time if he has a manual labor job.
Exactly. A lot of people with manual labor jobs too, like they don't fast. They could, like I feel
Mhm.
like they really could as long as you're hydrated and be really good to
It
like
takes
have
some getting used to, probably, yeah,
takes
especially if it's hot and stuff like that. Yeah.
exactly. You got to keep hydrated. You can have electrolytes with you so you don't get cramped or whatever. But if you're able to actually fast and do that, you those types of people drop weight or body fat very, very, very quickly because the demands and the calories that they're burning throughout the day are just so high. But if you're trying to gain weight, that's even like that. You can still do it, but you just have to eat more food. I know you're not a big fan of tracking, but it like you could track here and there just so you could have an understanding of how much you need to be eating so you could gain or drop. I'm pretty sure he's probably asking about dropping
Yeah, so
here.
for this guy, all he has to do if he's already tracking stuff is weigh himself and see like is he gaining, is he losing, look in the
Hmm.
mirror, like are things progressing, and then he can he could determine whether he wants to add more calories or reduce.
Yeah, and he was mentioning the hot and humid. I think the biggest thing that would probably be or get in his way a little bit is being dehydrated. A lot of people forget to drink water, Jessica, during the day. um, and that's one of the things that like leads them to getting really tired. It's lack of water and also like I mentioned, a lack of electrolytes. So you can if you have something like that on deck, that would help a lot and just not feeling drained as you're working.
Yeah, and there's companies like Perfect Keto that have their they got their essentials electrolytes that you it's just some capsules
Hmm.
that you just pop in the middle of the day or whenever you feel you need them. I think it's always best when it comes to hydration to stay ahead of it, stay
Yeah.
out in front of it. Figure out a way to stay out in front of it is going to be your best bet. It's like too late when you got a cramp already or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and I do think in this case, I mean, it would depend on what you're doing, but if you have a very intense manual labor job, you might need some food. I mean, you might need
Yeah.
some snacks, and you might need to maybe vertical diet it. As much as I love fasting, I have also never worked in the sun in Florida
Oh.
the way that maybe this guy is, or the way that maybe some people do. So I don't even really know what that's like. So I can't really accurately say like, oh, fasting's totally the way to go.
Mm.
You might need some food, but I'd still, you still need to have sound nutrition. Sounds like this guy's on a pretty good plan. He can maybe start out his day with some, oatmeal or something like that, and some eggs, and then, have some snacks with him so that his blood sugar doesn't drop. But if you get used to fasting, then you don't have that fluctuation of your blood sugar. It doesn't. It's probably more unstable without fasting.
Yeah.
So it's going to be whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's going to take time to get used to it.
Hmm. And I think he mentioned also he's like higher carb. I don't have like currently because a lot of people are asking what my diet's like. With what I'm doing right now, I'm actually low carb, and I've done higher carb, I've done lower carb. I personally feel better, especially when I'm not working out too. Doing lower carbohydrate. Lower carbohydrate means that I'm eating most days it would be less than 120 grams of carbs.
Mhm.
And I'm someone who used to eat 400, 500 grams of carbs for my performance, right? So I've been on both sides and I've done fine on both sides, but I do feel a little bit better. Lower carb,
Do
not a
you
big deal.
do you think that's just like a combination of learning how to eat a little bit better, learning just being more educated, period, on nutrition, or do you think that just over time you've developed a more I don't know, your body just appreciates fat better than it does the carbs? Because I know like I asked you like, hey, can I still have high carb? You're like, yeah, but you're gonna have to drop fat.
Yeah.
And I feel way better right now. I don't know if maybe in time after following like a strict diet for a long period of time where I'm like, man, I need to switch over. I need to get fat in my system.
This,
But so do you think that it was just like a timing thing, or it's just because you just got tired of not having fat?
I wanted to try the lower carb because I mean, there was a time I think I talked to Mark about it too. I was scared of doing it because whenever you hear about athletes having to perform at a high level, it's always really the advice is, or the suggestion is, higher carbohydrates is going to help fuel your exercise, whether it's lifting or high cardiovascular exercise, much better. So I was like, I'm scared of not performing well. That's why I did it. There was a period, I think it was like 2 weeks, or maybe I was feeling a little bit, and I got used to it.
Right.
That's I think the one thing that athletes need to get used to is just like giving themselves a period of time to get used to eating much less carbs and much higher fat and being able to perform under that type of stress. But at the same time too, I realized that I don't need, and I've mentioned this too many times, I don't need as many carbs as I used to be able to perform at a high level. I don't need I'm not going to be using that amount of carbohydrates, the 400, 500 grams that I used to just put down. Not going to be using it. It's an unnecessary amount of carbs. It's just an excuse to eat more carbs,
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And I know a lot of athletes that do that. So it's, unless you're doing some like really, I don't know, maybe track and it's like that demanding of a sport where you're just going at that high type of output for prolonged amounts of time.
You're like a 400-meter sprinter or something like that. I mean, that's a lot of work. You just go ahead and eat whatever you need to eat to get through that shit, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's necessary.
Right. I think people should find their kind of carb tolerance point, and they should figure out, if you're fatter than you want to be, and you just realize that you need to lose some weight,
Nsima.
then
My bad. I didn't notice
he's
that.
making like a little thunder in the background. That's kinda cool. Sound effects. If you're trying to drop some lbs and you're consuming a decent amount of carbohydrates, just shift them around a little bit. See what makes sense. And as it's been said by CrossFit for many, many years, I've actually recently been in touch with Greg Glassman, and I'm super excited. I'm going to be going to this event they have in Santa Cruz, where they have kind of this low carb conference. And CrossFit anyway has been preaching low carbohydrate for the last 20 years. They're one of the only organizations that I know that has been,
Really?
paleo and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of all came from them.
Okay.
And when they were with Rob Wolf and stuff like that, and they've had it since then, they've had a lot of other people come in. But one of the CrossFit like kind of mottos or something that I've seen, a quote before that I've seen in the CrossFit community was, consume enough carbohydrates that you can perform really well, but not so many carbohydrates that they make you fat.
Yeah.
And again, we're not saying that carbs make you fat. Nothing makes you fat except for yourself. And making poor decisions towards like not sleeping enough and poor decisions towards food choices and things of that nature. But carbohydrates are just easy to eat, and we got a tendency, as Nsima is talking about, eating 300, 400, 500 grams of carbohydrates. Do you really need that for what you're doing? And who we talk to most of the time, which is just people that go in the gym and train pretty hard, or we'll just say very hard, train very hard for 4 or 5 times a week. That's a lot of training, but I don't know how many carbohydrates you really need for that.
Yeah.
I would say, it could be a little different for each person, but maybe 100 or 200 would probably work really well for most.
Mm-hmm. The demands of like a powerlifting routine, and most of the people or listeners do a lot of powerlifting. The demands of a powerlifting routine multiple days a week with the addition of bodybuilding you're not going to need that many carbs to do that. And like I was mentioning to Andrew, if you're someone who's like, I got to do high carb, then realize you have to do lower fat. You have to lower that fat intake because you can't eat a good amount of protein, very high carbs, and very high fat. You're going to be eating way too much food in general. So one's got to give. If you're higher carb, you got to be lower or moderate fat, and just enough fat so that you can't, like, it doesn't affect your mood and your hormonal levels. If you're going to be higher fat, then you should probably be lower carbohydrate. Something's got to give somewhere.
There's two things that are kind of true here. Like if you're trying to get really shredded, it's low everything. And if you're trying to get really fucking big, it's high everything. You want to bring, because even Jake Cutler was saying even when he was eating 1,000 carbs a day, which he did for many, many years in his bodybuilding career, which is
How?
yeah, that's a lot of food. Well, and so when it comes to like the reason why carbohydrates are so effective, there's multiple reasons on why they're so effective for getting big, but one of the main reasons they're so effective for getting big is that they're easy to eat. They're enjoyable.
Yeah.
It makes it easier. Like if you have steak, it makes it easier to eat your chopped up steak with some rice. Or what if you have you got some salt on there, or some bone broth? Now you kind of turned it into like a monster mash. That just gets to be easier to eat. So then you can consume more. And also with the ingestion of carbohydrates, what it does to your insulin levels, that will additionally help you to be hungrier. It's going to stimulate hunger, and so it just kind of makes the whole thing a little easier. But if you're trying to lose weight, that would make sense that you would say, you know what, I'm not going to eat that because like I've done, I just cut out a food category because I'm like, if I eat that, I really want to eat a lot more of it. And I think that most people have to probably question, if you are eating 4 or 5 times a day, do you need 50 grams of carbs with every meal? I understand, if you're trying to get big, then yeah, then your need is different than some other people's. But when we're talking about need, a lot of times on this podcast, I think it's usually in reference to dropping weight. But if you're somebody that's trying to build some mass and get big, you have to kind of experiment on your own. You got to say, okay, well, I tried 200 grams of carbs and 200 grams of protein, and nothing really changed. All right, I'm going to bring both of them up to 250, and you might have to kind of climb the ladder until you find a number that allows you to get big.
Yeah. There was something I was thinking about in terms of being able to handle more fats, because one thing that I notice whenever a lot of people start switching to higher fats from doing higher carbs, they always mention like diarrhea and their gut just
Blowouts.
like blowouts. I don't know if we just talked about this, but that's another that's another thing that you need to give some time, because I had that too. When I started eating much higher fats and much lower carbs, I was getting like a lot of
It's okay. I
wet-
did too.
yeah. Sorry. I was having a lot of wet poops, man.
Little
And
diarrhea.
yeah, it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's probably like the most common thing amongst people that switch over to carnivore. At least in my experience that I've seen people, including
Yeah.
myself. And then I was just talking to Ryan earlier today, and he's like, "Hey, man, like, did you have diarrhea?" I'm like, "Yeah, I had a lot."
See?
I'm like,
yeah.
but it's supposed to go away. For me, it actually, I had a hard time with it. I ended up like going the other way because I couldn't take it anymore. But I told him, I was like, just stick with it. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna stick with it for the rest of the month for sure, at least.
Yeah.
So
That'll go away.
Mhm.
It just takes time. So that's one of the big things that I seek that causes people to quit in terms of making that switch into higher fats, lower carb, etc.
It does take time. There's a couple of things that can help with it. If Jessica, if you can grab my phone, I listed out a bunch of stuff that can help with diarrhea. So
Oh, that's
we'll get to
awesome.
that in a minute. You can.
Ooh.
And what's funny is, so like,
Thanks,
you're good.
Jeff.
And what I find is if I have something like a Quest bar that has a lot of fiber,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I'm like, actually my poops are like really, really solid, like a little bit too much. Like,
Oh,
What
it
do you
dries
say?
it out.
yeah, like if I have like, seriously, if I have 2 like in one day,
Yeah.
like I'm having to push a little bit harder than normal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, versus if I have like a bunch of steak, and then it's like, man, next one's an emergency.
Yeah, well, general rule of thumb, like the more fiber you drink, the more water you need to drink in tandem, because fiber can actually clog you up if you're not drinking enough water.
So
Like
then that's the key then, because like I usually don't pay attention to how much water I'm drinking. I try to just drink as much as I should, but I end up peeing like nonstop throughout the day. But I guess, yeah, that's something I haven't paid attention to, is adding more water when I have more fiber.
We're talking about a lot of bodily fluids here. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to help with diarrhea, these are some suggestions that I got, and some are gathered just from fans and from people that have had just experience on the carnivore diet or have had projectile diarrhea experiences, and then some of it is from people like Gabrielle Lyon, people like Dr. Sean Baker, Paul Saladino, my friend Joel Green. I've kind of mixed everyone's advice together and kind of came up with some of this. So let me first off just say that some of this could have to do with adding fat just adding an enormous amount of fat to your diet, as Nsima already pointed out. So think about it, like you're used to just eating your normal diet. You eat 2 or 3 times a day, or maybe 4 times a day, and you have, I don't know, 150 grams of fat in a day, or 100 grams of fat in a day.
Mm.
Well, now all of a sudden you're eating a lot of meat, and you're upping your protein through the roof. Your protein was really low. The average American, I think, eats about, I think it was like 14% protein. Well, now you're switching over to, like, I don't know, 80% or 60% of your diet. I'm not sure, but a large percentage. It's probably tripling of your diet's coming from protein, and the rest is coming all from fat. And both of those things just jumped out of nowhere. And I really think fat is probably more the culprit than the protein, but I'm sure the combination is probably what's also blowing your butthole out. And so keep that in mind, and pay attention to how much fat you're taking in. You don't have to count the calories or track or anything. Just make sure that you're not dumping a bunch of oil on your stuff. Make sure you're not, I think people are like, oh, MCT oil, and they dump it on there, coconut oil, and or even olive oil. And you're going to run into some issues if you're doing a lot of oils in addition to the food that you're already eating. And then also, watch out for things like bulletproof coffee. You can put butter on stuff, but in the beginning, maybe be a little cautious with it, so that it doesn't end up being such a slippery slope, so to speak.
I love it. I love it.
Let's see. And then, sometimes the leaner meats can work really well. And then, so there's some supplements that you can mess with as well if you wanted to give that a try. Now, here's actually something that's really great, is that, first of all, glycine can help a lot. Glycine and collagen can help a lot in the case against diarrhea, I'd say. So you can get glycine from bone broth. You can get glycine from collagen. You can get glycine from Jell-O as well. So mixing in some Jell-O. Now, I think going to the store and buying like the shit Jell-O that's there is probably not great, even though they do have sugar-free options, and you can do that and it wouldn't have a negative impact on your weight loss. It might even help your weight loss to a certain extent. I would instead, go on Amazon and get some weird hippy dippy organic bullshit gelatin instead. And that could be mixed into just about anything that you eat. And if you use mild amounts of it, you're not going to notice it at all. It doesn't have much flavor. I've done that before. I used to mix it into my bone broth all the time just to add a little bit of texture to it. It will help thicken stuff up too. So if you wanted to put it in a protein shake or something like that, that would be really beneficial. And then here's some of the supplements that might help. You have betaine HCl. You have lipase, which is a digestive enzyme, ox bile, and then
Ox bile, like, is that?
Ox bile. Yep.
Okay.
I don't really know exactly what that is, but it's usually in digestive enzymes. So those were just some of the recommendations from some people. I've been trying to gather information as we go along with like some of my most commonly asked questions, and I just have some of my peeps in a text thread, and I hit them up and be like, what's going on with diarrhea?
Yeah.
And that's my day, talking about poop pretty much. But
Wow.
getting some top notch help around here.
There we go. Have you, in the group, noticed anybody with IBS doing carnivore and seeing anything? Has that come up at all, or no?
I haven't heard of anybody recently, but yeah, I know a lot of people have switched to a more carnivorous diet that have helped cure a lot of their stomach ailments. Yeah.
That's one thing. I know 2 guys that have been like struggling with IBS a lot. They like eating a lot of carbs, so I'm guessing carnivore might be something they might want to try.
Oh, I think it would be highly beneficial. There's going to be an adjustment period, and then also too, when your body no longer has any of those fibers in there. I mean, Andrew and I have talked about this before. Think about when you're sick. Like, the last thing you want is like bacon, right? The last thing you want is like even the smell of cooked meat. You're like, I'm gonna barf all over the fucking place. For some reason, you just want like a cracker or like a piece of bread with some or a piece of toast with some butter on it or something.
Yeah, something
right?
to just,
sugary stuff. Yeah.
Or some cereal or something,
just
right?
something
Or soup.
like because when you do kind of feel like throwing up, you have that watery like feeling. So you just want like a cracker to like I'm gonna soak all this shit up, or like I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know if it scientifically makes sense, but it makes sense in talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I used to just eat like a small amount of carbohydrates with like a protein shake, and
Mhm.
it seemed like it would just hold everything together better. Like it seemed like rather than the protein shake going in one end and flying out the other,
Mhm.
it felt like it kind of held everything together a little bit more.
That's what I've been doing recently. So I do track, and lately I've been able to mix a protein shake and have like 1 cup of Cheerios, like just plain Cheerios.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I the same thing. It's like I feel like there's something there for it. Probably because I'm also eating it slower,
Yeah.
but I feel like the protein's kind of soaking into the cereal, and I'm like actually able to digest it and not just like go straight out the back. So I don't know. And then so for the guys that you're saying that are dealing with IBS, have you
Yeah.
had them fast at all?
He's not fasting right now. I've just like increased his fat intake a bit and really lowered his carbs because he was eating like in the past he was eating a lot of carbohydrates.
Yeah,
a lot.
I'm willing to bet that fasting will help him a lot because that has helped me a ton,
Really?
big time.
Okay.
So when I switched over to carnivore the first time,
Mhm.
I would have like one solid dump a day, and it was cool. For some reason, when I think I went from that to vertical diet, then back to carnivore diet. For some reason, the second time around, like it was just like floodgates were open. I don't know what happened, but now with fasting and stuff, because my stomach again, it's always been pretty jacked up, but
Mhm.
I think fasting is like repairing everything inside there, because now I'm almost back to like the one solid dump a day.
Wow.
But on top of that, it's like unless I eat something weird, and
Yeah.
as weird as this conversation is, like it doesn't smell like, I mean, it obviously smells like shit, but it doesn't smell like like something died inside of me the way
Evil
it
shit.
used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's not more
It's
pleasant or
actually
anything,
I
but
mean, that's very true across the board,
mhm.
in terms of like, I've heard people before tell me like that when they were real heavy, they used to smell. They used to just like stink. And then also like, yeah, when you're eating weird foods, your farts are gonna be gross.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not that your shit don't stink when you're eating better,
Yeah.
but it is better. It's not as like it's not as potent, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and this sounds so dumb, like, and it's gonna sound worse when I actually hear myself say it, but like my poop smelled more like poop. Like
Right.
it didn't smell like any additives or anything
Yeah.
weird.
Currently.
Yeah, well, through fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yesterday, like I had some chicken tacos from my in-laws,
Mhm.
so it was like, oh, that's a little something different, something is brewing in there.
Yeah.
But normally, yeah, no, it just again, it sounds really odd, but to say like, yeah, my shit just smelled like, regular poop, and that's it. Whereas before it was like, what the heck is inside there? Like this is weird.
Well,
But
when you change your food, you change your poop.
yeah, and I think
Pretty simple math.
yeah, I think fasting has just helped my gut like just a ton. I mean, since we started this podcast, every time somebody would come in, I'd be like, "So what if somebody, poops every time they eat?" And Mark would be like, "He's talking about himself."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, you have to go, get your gut checked or something like that." And I never did anything.
Mhm.
But the one thing I did do was, try to get jacked. So I started fasting, and then, sure enough, like it's been helping me a lot.
That's really cool that you said that though, because I'm gonna have him. Well, we're gonna talk tomorrow anyway.
Mhm.
But because it's coming from you, I think it's gonna have a little bit more weight.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, I like carbs too, right? So I
Mhm.
think we're kind of on the same thing. I'm willing to guess he's more of like a slender type.
Very.
Yeah. Okay. So talking to Ryan earlier today, like before he even said it, I was like already wording his words through
Mhm.
with my mouth by him saying, "Yeah, I have diarrhea." I'm like, I kind of could have called that because I know your body type also.
Mhm.
He's big and jacked, but I know where he came from.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so there's something about the slender body that likes higher carbs and has a hard time with the heavy fat with diarrhea
Mhm.
and has gut issues.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, dude, I think getting him on some easy fasts would
Mhm.
would do a lot.
Yeah. And I've told him about it, but he didn't want to. So I guess now he will.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
If
he
he's
probably
listening,
will.
or if whatever, if you want me to talk to him, I can. But
Ha.
I won't even charge him that much.
Yeah.
You talking about Soper?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So when I spoke with him, yeah, I didn't want him to do any fasting in the beginning, but I told him that we'll move into that later. So
Yeah,
just trying
no,
to get him used to the food.
yeah. Whoever Nsima was talking about, and this is somebody else, but
Oh.
I was
Yeah,
talking
somebody
to
else.
Soper
Oh,
earlier,
right.
and it was funny because I was just like, yeah, I bet you he has diarrhea, and he's like, man, That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go away, but
Right.
you know, for me it didn't. But if I gave it more time, it probably would have.
Hmm.
Or if I just would have been smarter about the diet period, like, you know, I was still eating the fattier cuts of meat. I think if I would have ate leaner cuts, it would have been way better. And so that's what I recommended to him. I'm like, you know, maybe try some of the leaner stuff, but just listen to whatever Mark tells you. But if you just don't not go without fat though, like
You know
don't
how they
think that.
always talk about like a cleanse. You know, they're like, oh, we're gonna go on a cleanse. We're gonna
Yeah.
eat like this way, and we're gonna like cleanse out our body. Well, how about the carnivore diet? That'll really cleanse you out.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
blows everything out. You know, part of what's happening, I don't know the exact science, and Paul Saladino, some other people can explain it, but basically you have kind of bulk in your system. You got some bulk, some fiber, some carbohydrates that are helping to normally hold things together and they normally take up some water like reservations in your body, or any water that you take in, whether it's through your food or whether it's through your drinks. And a lot of your hydration starts to really change as soon as that bulk fiber's out of you. And now your body's starting to like really flush stuff out. So I wouldn't say like you're flushing out like toxins necessarily, but it's the absence of fiber. You haven't had any, you start switching over and you go 3 or 4 or 5 days without fiber, but B, you all of a sudden out of nowhere most likely spiked your protein or your fat or maybe both.
Mm. That's one thing even that I've noticed, because in the past, eating so much carbohydrates, I really had to pay attention to the amount of fiber I ate, in terms of like I had to eat enough fiber so I wasn't feeling constipated. Now that, like, first off, my carbohydrates are very, very straightforward. Like, I mainly eat rice. Here and there I'll eat potatoes, but it's mainly just white rice. Like, I don't have like I don't have that much fiber in my diet
There's
at
really
all.
hardly any fiber
There's
in there. Yeah.
barely any, but everything, like my digestion, I don't feel held up at all. Like I used to feel that way. I haven't felt that way. I can't remember the last time I felt like I was backed up.
Do you eat vegetables really?
Rarely. Like we'll get spinach every now and then, because for the potassium. But other than that, no,
Yeah.
not much.
I'm not
Not much.
one to like I've never cook vegetables. So if I was to eat a vegetable, which I'm not doing because we're on day 13 of World Carnivore Month, but if I was to eat a vegetable, it's usually just at a restaurant,
Hmm.
because it's like, well, it just comes with the entree. I'll just eat it.
Yeah.
Not gonna kill me to eat some asparagus, right?
I'm not anti-vegetables either. It's just like I really haven't had a need for it in a long
Yeah.
time. When I was eating it a lot in the past with the more carbohydrates, it was because I wanted to get the fiber in
Mm-hmm.
to help everything move
Right.
through. That was the main reason I was doing it. But I haven't had a need for that because I'm mainly eating a lot of meat. I'm still eating some carbohydrates, but I haven't had any digestive issues
Right.
at all.
And we've talked about this before, but like, in coordination with like what you're consuming, maybe you do need different things. So like somebody's like, I can't do that diet. I need fiber. Well, the current diet that you're on, you can't afford to probably get rid of fiber. But if you switch to something else, it might be a little different for you.
Hmm.
And it just, again, it's going to take some adjustment. I mean, it takes time. It's not like trying a new workout. You can really just try a new workout kind of at any time, as long as you're not leveling up and trying like the exact workout of someone that's way ahead of you. But if you go in the gym and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try this new exercise, your body adapts to it pretty quick, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. But when it comes to your nutrition, man, that can have massive changes on your energy output, massive changes on your sleep, massive changes, as we're seeing in the bathroom. So it can really change a lot of things for you quickly.
Definitely.
What you got over there, Andrew?
Yeah, just checking. Let's see. CPA Strength says he has his first lifting meet in July, so he's lifting like crazy. A lot of other people saying that fasting has helped their gut. What else do we got? No real questions. I asked for people to ask anything they had on their mind, but nothing came in thus far. So
Bunch of bums.
I think so. I'm like, hey, there's your opportunity to talk to Mark Bell. And everyone gets all quiet. It's so silly.
No, it's really good hearing about like just all those people with fasting in their guts, because I've heard that before. But I mean, it's more so been, I guess, just something that people have mentioned in terms of facts, but not actual people that do it. I guess even for me, I could probably have seen an improvement. I just didn't pay much attention to it. That's cool.
Yeah, I've always been able to eat just about anything, so I haven't really had a lot of like stomach issues.
Yeah.
But I do feel that I feel fasting is like super effective, and it's a lot more normal and natural than I think people give it credit for. We were obviously designed to do some of that. And for this week, I've been doing one meal a day, and I've never really messed with that before, and I'm liking it quite a bit. I just like fasting in general. Like the more that I do it, the more that I like it.
Mm-hmm.
As dumb as it sounds, like I'm enjoying not eating. Like sounds stupid, right? But I'm also excited to get back to like eating at least 2 meals a day because I kind of I liked the way that worked for me in terms of how much I could eat and to make sure I can eat all the nutrients. I'm not a huge eater. As a kid, I used to be able to pound some food really good, and as I got older, and as I went through like that big old bulk phase,
Mm-hmm.
like once I kind of got heavier and heavier, I was just like, "Fuck this! I don't want to keep eating like this." So, I lost a lot of that appetite. But as I go through the fasting more now, it's getting like easier and easier. But the one thing I'd say about the OMAD stuff, the one meal a day, and you don't really know anything doing something for 5 or 6 days. You just know a small amount. But in experimenting for 6 days, one thing I don't like about it is, you suffer a little bit through the fast, right? Because it's a longer fast. It's a 22, 23-hour fast. And it's annoying. Fasting can be a little annoying to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And so you fast, and then you're excited to eat, and then it gets to be kind of hard to eat when it's time to eat. And then the eating itself is a little bit uncomfortable. So that's the part that I don't like, but maybe over a period of time, maybe I'll adjust and maybe it'll get a little easier. But when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, the fasting's not that enjoyable. And now when it's time to eat, it's not as enjoyable. So I have to kind of work that part out. But, trying to get through the amount of food that I need to get through gets to be a challenge. And then there's also the old side of me, which probably always be there of like, no, dude, like you need the nutrients, like stuff yourself. This is the one chance you get. And so I keep, I'm not trying to like really engorge myself, but I'm excited to try to fill myself up because I'm like, this is the last time you eat, bitch. You better get after it.
That's kind of where I've been too. Like I don't mean to do one meal a day or anything like that, but I'm like, hey, I have like a couple hours before bedtime anyway, so I might as well just keep going. So my one meal a day turns out to be like a 3-hour nonstop feeding fest where I'm just trying to hit my macros. And because of the food that I'm eating, I'm not feeling like too grossed out or like, bloated or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm like wondering, like, does this still count as one meal a day, even though I'm having like 3 dinners in a row? Like,
Yeah.
because it's in one sitting technically. But I don't know, like if that's like a loophole.
Well,
or
I
something.
think if you stop eating for more than like 20 minutes, I would say that's a break.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Now I've been doing that OMAD thing for a long time now. But like I think one thing that really helped me with, because it's like it's not something I do every single day. I think it's helped me to understand or feel when like on a certain day I need to eat a little bit more. Like on certain days I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna end my fast early because for like the past 4 days I've been doing OMAD, and today I'm feeling a little bit more tired than I usually am. So I'll end that fast early and I'll eat maybe 2 bigger meals. And then maybe I'll go back to 1 meal a day for another 2 or 3 days. It usually ends up toggling itself like that. But I can feel those days, and I'm in tune with those days that I'm just like, I have to find out a way to get in even more food today. Did you, before you were doing OMAD like this right now, I mean, you've done it in the past, but was it not consistent, or this is just the more
OMAD diet?
Yeah.
No, I haven't really tried it before. I only,
okay.
I mean, I think I've like done it like once or twice just to kind of try it out. But now that I'm doing it a little bit more consistently, I'm recognizing like just when I'm eating, I'm like, wow, like I'm, because when you're normally eating, you're trying to be reasonable with your food.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, that was a nice amount of food. I feel good. I don't really need to continue eating. There's no reason to be a pig. And so I'm going to like slow down or stop or whatever,
Yeah.
And so now with like one meal a day, it's just the game is totally different. It's like I feel like I need to get those nutrients in there. And so I think if there was a little bit of carbohydrates in there, I think it would change everything because then it would make it that much easier for me to eat more food.
Yeah.
But I'm eating like, eggs and meat. And sometimes if the first thing, what I noticed is, well, there's really no easy way to do it. But if the first thing I eat is like fairly lean, then I'm like toast.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm totally done. If I was to eat like a New York strip, I would eat that, and then I would just be like, fuck, I want to eat more, but I'm dying over here. So yeah, just trying to get in enough food is a little bit weird on the one meal a day.
Yeah, with So with carnivore month, do you have like a certain goal in mind? Like, do you want to be a certain body weight? Are you trying to look a certain way?
No, not really.
Okay, because
Not really, because people are, they're like, some people are asking like for like before and after and stuff, and I'm like, you know, I'm in good shape, and I'm gonna be in just better shape. So you don't really, I mean, I just don't think you would see a ton difference. I do know that I'm leaner than I've been in a long time, and I know by the end of the month that I mean, people will just know, like they're like, oh shit, he's like, shredded,
yeah.
more shredded than he was in the beginning of the month. So I didn't really mess with, like a before and after picture or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Yeah, so I asked that because Skylar had asked a question about like if you've ever, while doing carnivore or even keto, like if you ever hit a certain plateau. But I know you usually don't like really have like a
Mhm.
certain goal. The only time you really do for aesthetics, at least, was for the bodybuilding show.
Mhm.
But that was obviously a very very focused goal. But like, did you ever run into a certain like weight plateau? And if you did you change up the diet or did you just work a little bit harder in the gym?
Yeah, I think your progress is always going to stop at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just try to figure out how can I adjust to that? What can I do differently? Because if I keep doing the same thing and I'm expecting different results, like that's not going to work so good. So it's really just a matter of some small tweaks. Sometimes it's as simple as like, hey, you know what? Just get rid of that heavy cream in your coffee, or it could be so small, and you'd be really really shocked. You'd be like, oh my god, I lost 4 pounds. Um, the one thing, I don't always have goals like that in mind. I'm just always trying to, like, I guess, be better overall. Something that I want to really work on, that I have been starting to address for this year is, I need to move better. I've been kind of doing everything better, but like moving better has been like the one thing that hasn't been great. So that's going to be a focus. I went to yoga on Sunday again. So,
Yeah.
I'm back to doing that. I actually really enjoy doing that quite a bit. Um, and that's one of the kind of main goals. I want to figure out how to move better. And so I'm just thinking about it from a lifting perspective. I'm like, all right, well, let's do movements. And Nsima was mentioning the single leg movements. Those are great for range of motion, mobility, strength. And so I was like, well, let me focus in on doing some of those. Let me focus in on doing movements that are at greater ranges of motion, like a deeper squat. Like let's just not worry about any of the weight on the squat. Let's just, squat super low, or super low for me, and let's see if we can develop some new ranges of motion. So my goals right now are, not anything that you would like necessarily see in the mirror, I guess. I mean, I think that the carnivore diet is just going to work itself out, and I'll be super ripped by the end of
Mm-hmm.
the month anyway. So I don't have a goal in particular. But yeah, anytime I got stopped, I always think of like, well, what's something different I can do? How could I attack this if my strength got stuck or if my body weight got stuck? Sometimes, an answer for a lot of people is just to take about 3 days and just take it off. Like, don't go off your diet. Stay on whatever plan it is that you're on, but double up. Just fucking enjoy your food and get a lot of sleep if you can. If you can figure it out, if you got like a 3-day weekend or you got something coming up where you can figure out a way to manage keeping the stress real low, getting some good rest, and just eat like a son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, real quick on that note of like, you said they asked if like their weight stalls, what to do.
Yeah. Well, they were more specifically asking Mark like what he did. They didn't say that they had
Ah,
the situation. I think it's just a more question that they're just curious
Just
about.
plateaus in general.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
let's see. We also have questions from Tim and Brian coming up. But real quick, can I get an air horn? All right, that's for Perfect Keto's new birthday cake bar. Yeah, they just released a new. Let me make sure it's yeah, a birthday cake bar, and they're doing a really cool thing where if you buy one box, you get 10% off 2 boxes, 20%, 3 boxes or more, 30% off. I have yet to try it, but I would imagine it tastes insane because their other bars are pretty ridiculous. But
Wow.
so I don't know. Hopefully we can get our hands on it. If not, I have a feeling
If
somebody's
it's
gonna
anything
steal
like
it.
the birthday cake remix from Cold Stone, then I'm going to be eating a lot of those.
Damn, that was a really good it's one of their special oh,
Yeah, you've had that one with the
yes,
brownie.
I've had it. Oh
I haven't had it.
God.
You guys didn't
Dang
share
it.
with me. What the hell?
It's from Cold Stone.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's why.
Oh yeah.
Birthday cake remix.
I've had it. It's so good.
Sprinkles. It's got
Anyways,
heavy cream. It's got
We're here
brownie.
talking about carnivore month, and then we go into Cold Stone
That's
IPA.
all. Most of the stuff's from a cow. It's got to be totally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
dairy,
carnivore,
it's carnivore.
technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the link will be, the direct link for the new birthday cake bars will be in the description of this YouTube video, this Facebook video, and iTunes show notes, wherever the hell you're getting this on your podcast platform of your choice. Just head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject. If you don't want the birthday cake bars, use promo code PowerProject10 to get $10 off your order of $40 or more. Promo code PowerProject bundle for $25 off any order of $100 or more. Anyways, Tim is asking, this is a real easy one. He wants to know if supplements are the best way to get electrolytes in if you're doing carnivore.
If you're doing carnivore, I'd assume so.
You know, I
Yeah.
think it's really weird. I think that like a lot of the stuff like balances itself out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've seen and from like listening to Paul Saladino and Dr. Sean Baker, I think that a lot of people are going to take a supplement just to kind of like make sure, and I don't really think that does any harm.
Mhm.
But from like what these guys are saying is like the only thing you really need is just some salt
Yeah.
and steak, and you know, especially if you're going Saladino's route or you're doing a nose to tail deal, then you're consuming all the nutrients that you need and then some. However, if you're somebody that puts out a lot, you put out a lot of energy in each and every day, whether it's like running or like Nsima does jujitsu, then it would probably make sense to reach for some electrolytes and get, we've mentioned many times before, the perfect keto essential electrolytes can really be super beneficial. It just comes in a capsule form. That's a great way to get some of those electrolytes in there without really having to think about it much.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I was going to mention. Like, if you see like my gi after jujitsu, it's disgusting. The amount of sweat, whatever exercise you do, if you're sweating a lot, that's a good sign that you might want to like think about getting that in. Because on days that I generally don't find the need to supplement electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends if you're expending that much energy.
Yeah. Would you guys say that like anybody on any diet's probably not getting in enough electrolytes as is right now?
Yeah, I think sometimes when people start to diet, they maybe
Mhm.
are, they've taken a lot of food out of their day to day, and maybe they're not holding on to as much water as they should, and so I don't think it would hurt at all.
Mhm.
You do probably need to pay a little bit of attention to maybe overdoing it. You
Mhm.
don't want to take like 10 capsules every day, but
Mhm.
you'd probably be totally fine with like one or two, and you probably thrive on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, my diet right now, I have no idea electrolyte wise, what I'm doing, but I just know I salt the shit out of all my food and
Yeah.
do as best as I can.
Well, and I don't consume any like potassium.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got my blood work back, my potassium was a little high.
Hmm.
So it's like, go figure out that riddle. And then they can try to claim that meat doesn't have any potassium in it, but it certainly does.
Yeah.
So, it's weird. Like your body doesn't really, even if you were to take a supplemental potassium, if somebody had like a pre-existing, like we don't really know what each person has, right? If you had a pre-existing condition or something, like it may not even really be helping you. But as I'm saying is, I don't believe it's going to cause you any harm. So you may as well have some, throw some in there here and there, just as long as you feel healthy, as long as you feel good.
Mm-hmm. So and then our boy Brian, who was actually here earlier today, he wants to know, like, if you're doing the OMAD diet and you don't get in enough calories, do you run the risk of slowing your metabolism down?
Actually, if you do that too often, like every single day, and you're consistently not getting enough calories, yeah, you will. But that's easily dealt with if, like, again, certain days of the
Maybe
week.
explain why you think that's the case.
So, especially if, like, okay, the goals matter. If you're someone who's trying to drop weight, which is most of us, and you're doing one meal a day and you're eating high protein, you're going to find it difficult to even get at enough calories where it's like a decent deficit. A lot of people might even find it hard to eat 1,500 calories in a single meal. So if you're eating 1,400 or 1,500 calories in a single meal every single day, your TDE or your energy expenditure is naturally going to go down to meet that caloric level of the food you're eating. Because like if you're if your body, like if you're eating such little food, your body's going to be working off that food and your metabolism will slow down to reach that level as maintenance over
Yeah,
a
it's
period
going
of
to
time.
slow down to match it, right?
So that 1500 will be your new maintenance. And then if you want to, and if you're doing that every single day, like I said, you're doing the same amount of exercises and you stop losing weight. Now you got to figure out a way to either increase your metabolism or you need to take away to bring about another deficit. Either do more work or
Yeah.
eat less food.
Probably going to feel kind of tired too, and you might not be able to put out the same amount of energy that you normally do.
Exactly. Which is why, like, you can do that, but that's why I like to have certain days where I eat much more. I open up my eating window. I eat multiple meals so that I'm not ending up like accidentally eating too little food over a period of time, because that would happen to me also. And that's why also diet breaks are a really good idea. You've talked about diet breaks in the past. Bring your calories up for like, I don't know, maybe a week or two. So if you were trying to eat 1500, maybe bring your calories up to 1750 or 1800, because your total energy expenditure will go up a little bit for that period of time where you might actually end up dropping body weight at slightly higher calories. Or when you bring your calories back down to where they were, you're going to start moving again. So that's why it's not always necessarily good to continue taking away, because at a certain point, it's just you're going to always feel ravenously hungry because you're eating such little food.
Right. And you can maybe think about your diet a little bit like you would with training. If you, think of a diet break being similar to a little break out of the gym. Your squat is stalled, you're not feeling great, lower back's tight. You intentionally skip one lower body session, and the next time you come in, you feel like you're on fire. You feel like you have so much energy, right? It gives you a chance to kind of reload. And that's what we're suggesting here is maybe every once in a while you take a diet break, and the diet break can look different. If you're already in pretty good shape, it can be a break and you can kind of do what you wish. Other times you could just say, you know what, just for the next couple days, I'm just going to eat a lot more of what I'm currently eating on my diet, just to sprinkle in something, a little mix, and then it's going to refresh you. Whether it actually does something scientifically, who knows? I'm sure, Lane Norton or somebody can come on here and explain why and how it all works. And I thought Nsima did a great job of breaking some of it down just now. Give yourself a break from that stress, because over dieting is a stress. Under feeding yourself is a stress. And then your body's like, yo, I don't think this is a good idea. So it slows everything down. And your body becomes a little bit stubborn. It's not as pliable. It's not as easy to work with. So if you take 2-3 days off and you increase your calories, your body's like, oh shit, we're back to being normal and thinking rationally, and we're giving us enough energy. And then maybe you're able to put out more energy in the gym, have a little bit better workouts. Maybe your sleep starts to get better again, and it just causes this cascade of positive things that can help lead you to dropping some weight. And then you're like, oh my God, that's so weird. My coach told me to eat more and I lost 3 pounds. That's the kind of stuff that happens pretty often.
Dude, like diet breaks are, when people are like, I'm holding on to a little bit too much water right now. That's like some people, that is actually the case when they've been dieting for too long, because they actually physically just get stressed because of the diet. And the more stressed you are, the more cortisol you produce, and the more actual water you hold on to. So you could be holding on to 5 or 6 pounds of water, and after a diet break, you just magically lose 5 or 6 pounds. It's because you're less stressed, and that will help you expend that. And you don't actually lose body fat. You just drop the water you've been holding on to. That actually happens to quite a few people.
What do you currently do with like cravings and stuff? Do you just, if there's a certain restaurant that you want to go enjoy, do you kind of like just say, all right, well, that's been pulling at me for the last couple of days, I'm just going to go there at the end of the week? Do you do that sometimes?
The cool thing is that like when I have cravings, the cravings aren't, I guess, for really high sugary foods like they used to be. So if I want to go out and eat something, like I went to Monsoon recently, but I just wanted a really dope burger. Like it was more so the burger.
Was it a
there.
Monsoon in the toilet too?
Actually, it was pretty good. It was
Wasn't
pretty
bad.
good. I haven't had bad shits in quite a while. But like the foods that I crave aren't generally really, really highly refined foods anymore. I probably had ice cream maybe a week ago, a week and a half ago, but it's not like
now the truth comes out. See this,
no,
Andrew?
but it was a while ago, man. Man, this used to be a multiple weekly thing for me. I used to eat like 5 or
What
6
kind of
days
ice
a week.
cream we talking about?
We
here?
we talked about it, Ben and Jerry's, or even
Oh.
Cold Stone. I was an avid Cold Stoner, so I'd go there 3 times,
Cold
3 or 4
Stoner.
times a week. Yeah, I just actually made that up. So that's
pretty
actually pretty
good.
dope. But yeah,
I think they're all closing down though. So
I hope not.
Them
I
and
know.
GameStop.
Well,
GameStop's closing down too.
Mhm.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they just have too many stores. They're like all too close to each other.
Mm.
Yeah, but the palate changed, man. So like the cravings are different, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with craving a burger or craving those types of foods rather than really just
Yeah,
sugary.
I've been
foods.
craving like nigiri, which is just fish and rice, and I've been craving
yeah.
poke, and I've been craving Thai food.
Interesting.
In Davis, there's a place called Ket Moray that I like a lot, and I just feel like going. And it's relatively healthy. I mean, they do have some sauces that might have some crazy amount of fat in them or something like that, along with eating a big old bundle of rice. But I love that shit.
Yeah.
And that's like it's kind of nice because I used to anytime I had a craving, it was always for sweets.
Yep.
It's always for like a bunch of junk, a bunch of crap. So I think maybe at the end of this, maybe I will hit up a day or two of just kind of going through some of those cravings, living them out, getting rid of them, and then starting over. I feel like at this point, I don't have any trouble at all. Going 5-6 weeks or 4 weeks or so without really any break or anything too different in there, and it's been feeling really good.
Yeah. As long as you can maintain it, you're good to go.
Man, I'm trying to find the person that hooked it up, but this doesn't fit well for carnivores. But he was saying that putting like strips of so cutting potatoes into fries, shapes of fries,
See.
put those as a bottom layer on the air fryer, steak on top of said fries, and the grease and the fat from the steak dips down into the fries, and then you can take the steak out and then keep cooking the fries, so that way you have delicious, flavorful,
We're talking
crispy
about-
fries.
We're talking about meat fries.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
Wow.
dude. We got some of the best listeners on in the planet.
That's fat.
That sounds amazing, though.
I want to do that.
That's what I said. I'm definitely doing that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds ooh.
You know what I've been doing? I've been making some carnivore sauce lately. Some carnivore sauce. I've been just taking some egg yolks, crack them up, give them a little whip with a fork, and I dip my steak in there
And just
And
like
some
raw
egg-
egg yolk?
and some fucking egg yolks. It's amazing.
Huh.
I love it.
At least YouTube.
Sometimes I just dump it right on my steak.
Yeah.
So
Huh,
YouTube
okay.
Yeah, it works good.
handle Bent Houseman
put
is the
salt in
one
that?
that said that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ben Tausman.
Mm-hmm. At least that's the YouTube handle. I don't know if that's an actual name or not.
Well, thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. I appreciate that that whole thing.
Ben's a
I'm gonna
genius.
Try that out.
It's Bent.
Mm.
That's his name. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah. But
Where
I'm
can people find you, Mr. Andrew?
I am Andrew Z, and make sure you guys are following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project. Those are both on Instagram, on Twitter at MB Power Project, TikTok at MB Power Project, Facebook.com/Power Project, YouTube.com/Mark Bell's Power Project, LinkedIn.com/IN/Power Project. We are all over the place trying to take over the entire podcast space. Nsima, where you at?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Yin Yang on TikTok and Twitter.
Oh,
How about
and
you, Mark?
Don't forget to
Oh,
rate and
Lord.
review on iTunes. My bad.
Yes. Check out iTunes, please. Give us a rate and review.
There you go.
I can't wait to get home and get me some of that Piedmontese steak. I'm getting pretty hungry at this point. We still got a little workout to do. We're gonna hit up some back training.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. I was worried you already did that. Did
No.
that.
No.
Okay.
Nope, everybody stole my time today, so I gotta be punished. I gotta work out in a little bit. January 27th is the launch date of markbell.com. So you're going to be able to go over there and follow whatever the hell it is you want to follow that I do, whether it's lifting or nutrition. You're going to find all the information there. Going to give you guys specific workout routines and specific things to do. There's conditioning drills on there. There's finishers to workouts. There's powerlifting stuff on there. All the stuff that I've been talking about, all the stuff that you see on Instagram, all the stuff you see repeated over and over again on YouTube. It's going to live there now, but it's also, also still be pumping out tons of free content. This is a pay site. So, put the hateful comments in the comments below. It's going to be $6.99 a month, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited because now I kind of have a hub, if you will, to put everything, in kind of one spot, because people are always asking about, hey, did you ever talk about this? You ever talk about that? And it's like, I've talked about it a million times, but it's kind of scattered throughout the whole damn universe of the internet. Your porn is going to continue to be free, but the stuff from me you're going to have to actually pay for. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. I'm at Mark Smellybell on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Catch y'all later.